Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, so listen, I'm happy for all those who've joined so far, and I'm happy particularly to be joined by Ezra Levin today. I've had an opportunity to speak with him before, so I know how valuable his insights are and will be. For those who don't know, he's the co-executive director of Indivisible, the grassroots organization, national organization that's been a leading driver of the No Kings protest in June, and is and will be again for the October 18th protest, the No Kings protest. I surely want to talk about mass demonstration, what the prospects are, what you're expecting,
Yep.
what you think will drive that. But obviously today's a day where we need to talk about the shutdown,
Yep.
the government shutdown, which just started at midnight this last night. You've written, and now's the time for Democrats to stiffen their spine and be a unified force.
Yep.
That sounds about right to me. So what does that entail?
Well, I should say I did write that, and as you repeat it back to me, now is the time. A month ago was the time. 5 months ago was the time. eight
How about
years
a
ago
year
was the
ago? Yeah,
time. But now is the time, and we are seeing it now. And I think it's important to put this in context of where we have been, where we were, where we are now with building a unified opposition party. It
yeah,
is worth remembering immediately after the election in November, we saw Trump come in promising his Project 2025 agenda, and we saw the response of the Democratic establishment and leadership of Congress was basically, well, we lost. I guess we're going to have to figure out a way to work with Trump. And resistance, opposition, that's over. That's not going to happen again. And so there was this effort for months to talk about how they were finding common ground with the regime,
mm,
how they were voting for Laken Riley, this anti-immigrant bill. They were voting for his nominees. They were trying to figure out how they could partner together. And this is as Trump is pardoning January 6th committee members, is nominating the most extreme cabinet in American history, and is pushing forward this extreme, unpopular agenda. And that was happening at the same time. Indivisible and other folks organizing on the ground were seeing massive engagement from people who hated Project 2025
yeah.
and were shocked and appalled at the Democratic Party response. They wanted to see the Democratic Party fight back. I mean, to put some numbers on it, Stephen, the largest protest that we had in the first Trump term was around family separation. It was families belong together in 2018. It was huge. It was enormous. It was powerful. It was inspiring. And there were about 750 events on one day all across the country. Hands Off, if folks can remember, in April of this year,
Mm,
had 1,300 events nationwide with about 3 million people around the country. No King's Day in June had between 5 and 6 million people in 27 countries,
right.
every state, and 2,200 communities. We are operating on a scale that is a magnitude larger than what we saw even during the first Trump term when protest was the new brunch. And the folks coming out right now, they are not just a fighting between centrists or conservatives and progressives. That's not actually the key nature of the fight. The fight is between those who want to see the Democrats stand up to this
Yeah.
regime and those who believe, well, we should roll over and play dead and just wait for the next election.
Well, people
That's
who believe that bipartisanship, you can work with the other side is a real thing.
And there was an era when that was true. There was an era in American politics where that made sense, where there was common overlap. That was an era, though, where the president of the United States wasn't trying to get comedians fired, where he wasn't invading and occupying American cities, and where he wasn't mobilizing a secret police task force to terrorize American communities. So there was a time when that made sense. That is not the reality today. And so we can point our fingers at individual Democratic leaders or the Democratic Party and feel good that we're on the right side of history, but that's not my goal. My goal is to build a unified opposition party. So I'm looking for chances where they are willing to show some backbone. And that's where we are right now. Unlike in March,
Yeah.
where Schumer led the Democrats to surrender to the Republican demands, we are in a different place, verifiably so, where now Democrats are more or less unified in not just rolling over and playing dead. They are saying, give us these popular things that we'll make the argument to the public for, or we will not assist you in continuing an illegal and unconstitutional attack on the American people. And that's
Yeah.
progress, Stephen. That is
Yeah.
progress. So I am in. Okay, that's the play. Let's run the play. I'm in cheerleader mode. I've had my differences with lots of these Dems, but right now I'm backing the play, and that's what I think we should all be doing. Put your concerns aside. We're not fighting about 2028. Hell, we're not even fighting about 2026. We are fighting right now. These are the cards that are being played. We should be backing it up right now.
Yeah, and look, this is not a time where people can ask anymore this question. Are we looking toward an authoritarian regime? Are we aiming? Can we see this
Yep.
government is interested in undermining, dismantling the government and undermining the majority of American people? I mean, none of these things are a question anymore. So it's on the table, and it really becomes this question of what is the catalyst that convinces people that all this kind of pent up frustration, anger, fear, hope maybe is in the mix. How do you actually take all of that and direct it in a meaningful way? Obviously, the No Kings protest is a part of that, but I want to sort of dig into the question about issues because it's clear that there's a range of issues, and the work that you've done. I'm thinking to the June protests. It was inclusive and it brought people from a lot of different persuasions in terms of issues that were important, whether it was democracy, whether it was free speech, whether it was, broadly speaking about healthcare, I mean, you name it. So my question for you is, I mean, maybe first about the shutdown. I know you focused on, the Democrats talking about restoring Medicaid and protecting the Affordable Care Act, not you trying to shut the budget loopholes that Trump and the regime has been using to essentially to facilitate his growing police state.
Yeah.
So are those the issues that are both the critical ones for right now for this shutdown, and are those same issues the ones sort of looking forward?
They are the issues of the shutdown, and they are related to the issues that are going to become more and more the focus as we go on. The reason why they are the issues for the shutdown is twofold. One, it's what we could unify Democrats in Congress around. And that's important.
Yeah,
It's all well and good to have the perfect set of demands, but if you've got a small minority of the Democratic caucus behind them, that's not power. That's not leverage. You can't use that. There are a lot of things I would like to see Democrats do. I'd like to see an end of the occupation of American cities. I would like to see an end of the secret police. I would like to see the big ugly bill entirely repealed. There's lots of stuff I would want.
yes, please. Can we
Yes,
make that happen? Do we
we
have to? I'm
we
checking my watch. Do we have to wait too long?
we can make that happen, but not now. And
Yeah.
politics is the art of the possible in the present, not in the future. So what can we get done now? We can unify all the Democrats on restoring Medicaid cuts, on stopping premium increases by extending the ACA tax credits, and in terms of how to constrain this regime, preventing the budget shenanigans, the impoundment, the rescissions that basically allow Donald Trump to give Congress the middle finger and do whatever the hell he wants. We want to stop that. Is that the only thing we need to do to constrain this regime? Absolutely not. But it's something we can make the argument on right now, and I'll take a step forward. I will take a step forward. I think that is a good thing to be fighting on, and we can hang our hat on that. Because
Yeah.
the alternative to that is it doesn't matter what the hell kind of budget Democrats and Republicans vote for, because Donald Trump is just going to do whatever the hell
Yeah.
Donald Trump wants to do. And we can make that argument in Republican states, in rural areas, and in city centers. That is a defensible argument that we should be making from now until the Republicans give in on this demand. The the I do want to comment on something you said about hope going forward, and it is the reality that we are not just facing a George W. Bush or George H.W. Bush or Reagan administration. This isn't just a right-wing administration that
Yeah.
is implementing,
Yeah.
conservative economic and social policies that I disagree with. Now, I
Right.
disagreed with those, but that's not what this
You,
is.
you you knew that they actually believed in the democratic project. You knew that they cared about, they accepted that elections are the way that we, adjudicate the interests of the public. Those things were treated as a given. We're not in that world anymore.
That's exactly right. And we need to update our politics and our practice for the present moment, which is operating under an authoritarian regime. And let me tell you, that word hope is really hard
Yeah.
because our enemy is not Trump. It's not MAGA. It's not the Republican Party. Our enemy is cynicism and nihilism and fatalism.
Yeah.
That is what kills us. Because if we believe nothing we do matters, if we believe it is pointless to oppose this seemingly strong would-be authoritarian, we lose. It is
Yeah.
game over. So
Yeah.
we have to be able to convince people that no, this guy isn't some strong tyrannical ruler. That's what he'd like to be, but he's operating from a place of weakness.
Yeah.
And
And weakness
this
and
is
desperation, I would say.
exactly, exactly. He is a
And the
cornered
more he
animal.
feels both of those qualities, the worse he gets.
That and he is lashing out and trying to distract and trying to show just how brave and strong he is, but he doesn't have the goods. He doesn't have the support of the American people on this. And it is easy during a time of authoritarian overreach to look day to day at the damage and human disaster that is being foisted upon us by this regime because it's real and we can't stop all of it. That's the
Yeah.
reality. He
It's
got
an
elected.
overload, no
He's
question.
got power and he's doing bad things every day. And it is a mistake, though. What I want people to understand is a mistake to say, wow, he's doing this and he's doing that and he did this other thing. And it seems like no matter what we do, they continue to do harm. That is true. But the way that you measure the success of an anti authoritarian movement is one, are we bigger than we were before?
Mhm.
Two, are we more unified than we were before? Three, are our tactics proliferating over time? And four, is the regime's support diminishing? And on each of those, every single month, I can check the box. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. We are making progress. He is losing support. It might not seem like that on a day-to-day basis because the guy's unhinged and he's playing for it. He's really going for it. But
Yeah.
he is losing and we are winning.
Yeah. Despair, fear, those kinds of feelings, they cause people to think about giving up. And
Yes,
obviously that is the worst of it. I mean, I always think about, the great humanist Elie Wiesel talking about that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference.
indifference.
And in some sense, people getting to the point where they say, like, I just can't take it anymore. It's too much. And,
Yeah.
look, I know it as a writer, I'm publishing 3, 4 times a week. And I always feel like I'm not even doing close to enough because there's so much that's unfolding, that's being sort of foisted upon us. But it becomes sort of, I think, the obligation of everyone listening now. I mean, everyone who's sort of in this fight to say, these are the things that I can do. These are the
Yeah.
issues that are most important to me. This is where I'm going to advocate. This is where I'm going to participate. And look, that's why I want to have this. I have had this conversation. Listen, what I'm worried about is that our friends, Mr. Schumer and Mr. Jeffries, they buckled the last time we were at a shutdown. It didn't take very long. What are your views about the prospects this time around?
Look, we're in a better position now than we were last time. And my position is this: plan A is to win. Plan A is to win. I would love look, I've been plenty critical of Jeffries and Schumer over the last several months. When Schumer surrendered on the last funding bill back in March, we took a vote. We had an emergency meeting of Indivisible leaders. 1,300 of them voted at, I think, 92% to call for Chuck Schumer to step down from leadership because he had demonstrated he wasn't interested in leading opposition. And we, I believe, became the only national organization to call for Schumer to step down from
Yeah.
leadership.
Yeah.
So I'm on board with calling out failed leadership.
Right.
And also, if the outcome of this fight is Schumer successfully corrals his caucus and fights to push back against this regime here, I'm his biggest cheerleader. I'll be front of the pack in the protest on No King's Day, celebrating Dems for fighting back.
Yeah.
That's plan A. Plan B is new leadership. If the Democrats cave, we are done advocating. We are done
Yeah.
pushing them. We are going into primary season and we are demanding a Democratic Party that actually fights back. I hope we are in plan A, but if plan A doesn't pan out, we have a pretty strong plan B. We have what is going to be, in about 2.5 weeks, the largest peaceful protest in modern American history with No Kings 2. That's on October 18th. I can tell you, as of yesterday, we have more events on the map for No Kings 2 than we had on the day of No Kings 1, which itself was a historic day of protest. Those folks in the streets, we're
I
going to have
heard that it was,
millions.
sorry, I heard it was 2,000 events already scheduled. Is that about right, or it's now more than that?
We're at about 2,200 now already
Yeah.
scheduled all over the
So,
world.
so if it was 5 million plus the last time, are we going to double it? I mean, what's the number that you envision? Look, the 3.5% of the population. Well, that's 12 million. So double gets you pretty close. And these things aren't exactly hard and fast, but they
Right.
start to look like a national movement that has the ability to have an impact. And I want to talk about what the characteristics of that are. But what do you expect in terms of numbers?
I expect it to be bigger, Stephen. It's going to be bigger. That
Yeah.
and that's what I want. I want it to be bigger. I want more people who have never participated in a protest before to come out. I want more communities represented. I want more events, and I think that's what we're going to see. If the first No Kings Day was about Trump occupying American cities and sending his secret police force around the country to terrorize their communities, I think this No King's Day is about the First Amendment and our
Yeah.
constitutional rights. He is
Mm.
systematically cracking down on dissent and opposition and our ability to just be Americans who exercise our rights.
Yeah.
And when your First Amendment rights are under attack, there is but one full safe thing, foolproof tactic
Yeah.
for defending those rights.
Let's come together, shall we?
Exercising those rights.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do. Even in response to him cracking down in dissent, we say, oh, I don't want to mess with that. I don't want to be in the target of his anger, the target of his wrath. Then we lose those rights. Those
Yeah.
rights don't
But
exist.
but that's why, I mean, look, I look at protest and the solidarity that comes with people coming together as a thing that not only speaks to power, it also I think gives people the ability to realize, like, I may be a little bit worried about my well-being, all by myself, but if I'm part of this group, then he can't arrest 10 million people. And look, I'm even
That's
thinking
right.
of the day when the Epstein survivors sort of came together to
Yeah.
speak out about what they had been through, and they all had individually quite painful, difficult stories to share, and I think many of them were reluctant to do so for obvious reasons
Yeah.
beforehand, but bring them together, and they felt like they had the strength that they didn't have individually.
He wants you to feel alone. That
Yeah,
is what any authoritarian wants. The thing he is most terrified of is peaceful, organized, broad-based, ideologically diverse protest by folks who are normal, everyday Americans who care and don't like what's going on. That is the greatest threat to his consolidation of power, which is why events like No King's Day, where you have a historic community building, boisterous, joyful, powerful movement of people coming together, is a direct threat to his project. That's why it's so important to do. It's not enough on its own. No one day protest is going to be enough on its
yeah,
own. But by building a community nationwide, worldwide like that of people who are aligned on at least one basic fact that we don't do kings,
yeah,
that we want our constitutional rights. If you can start there, then you build up to, well, what else do we agree on? What other tactics can we engage in? After the last No King's Day, which was, in my mind, fabulously successful,
yeah,
the do out from that, the main do out from that was something we called a 1 million rising, where we trained 350,000 people who then went back and trained their own communities on the principles of strategic
mm,
non-cooperation. How do we move beyond just being mad at Trump or pushing our elected officials? And where do we have leverage with media, with universities, with businesses, with law firms? How can we push them? And an opportunity presented itself pretty soon after when Disney capitulated within hours to a
yeah,
Trump threat by Brendan Carr against ABC and Disney. They capitulated. We had Indivisible folks protesting in Burbank and New York within hours of that announcement. 1.7 million people
yeah,
canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions, and Disney went back. They
yeah.
felt the pressure. They changed course, and Trump is left there losing that fight. We have power if we organize. We don't have power if we don't organize. They
So
will steamroll us.
yeah. So look, I think this question about is free speech the issue? Put a different way, is the aggressive authoritarian effort to silence dissent, the issue that people feel as being putting them at risk, and that they're willing to stand up for that. It does strike me exactly that the Jimmy Kimmel, ABC Disney battle, which they did change their minds within a matter of days. And I don't underestimate the role of protest. I surely think that more than 1 million people canceling their subscription spoke loud and clear. So it makes me wonder, is part of the next move to actually talk about national economic strikes? I mean, is that where we're heading? October 18th, I'm counting on massive numbers.
Yeah,
But it can't be a one-off thing. So
agreed.
how do you make it? How do you make that more sustained? Number one, and number two, what are really the next steps in terms of being able to apply pressure with a collective power?
Yeah, yeah, I so agree. I so agree that it cannot just simply be one-day protests, regardless of how enormous and historic those protests are. They've got to feed into productive on-the-ground action that is strategic, that is tactical, that has impact. Might not just be focused on Trump or members of Congress, but other institutions. Let me tell you what I see coming up in the immediate term of where we can score some wins. One is obviously the shutdown that we've already talked about. We can demonstrate that we can, in fact, organize and unify an opposition party against this regime. That's step one. So if you've got a Republican who represents you in the House or the Senate, call them and tell them to stop keeping the government shut down in order for them to close more rural hospitals and raise your insurance premiums and give Donald Trump a blank check. If you've got a Democrat, cheer them on for standing strong, unless you happen to live in Nevada, and you should tell Cortez Masto that you're very disappointed, or Maine, you should tell Angus King that you're very disappointed, or Pennsylvania, you should tell Fetterman that you're very disappointed. Those are the three Democrats in the Senate who so far have surrendered.
Yeah,
If they get a few more, we lose. So it's important to use carrots and sticks right now. Carrots are cheering them on, giving them applause, giving them a lot of love. They're politicians, folks.
yeah.
Remember, they want that. And the
they,
stick is
they breathe it, or else they
that
stop breathing.
that is exactly right. So call them, tell them thank you, show up, bring them a cake, give them a card, celebrate them for standing strong. They're not used to showing spine. Make it feel good. Make it feel good. And for those who are caving, if you happen to live in those states, demonstrate outside of their offices. Make it very publicly clear that their constituents are pissed off that these Democrats are siding with the regime, because you're not going to shift their vote right now, but what you will do is send a message to all the other Democrats that there are costs to capitulation that they need to factor in. Then, beyond this, we've got elections, Stephen. We've got elections coming up. We've got Proposition 50 in California in November. In a few
Right.
weeks, we've got the Virginia elections. We've got the New Jersey elections. We've got a Supreme Court race in Pennsylvania. I know we're living in an authoritarian breakthrough moment, but damn it, it's still a constitutional republic.
And
We
those
still
elections
have the
are
right to
still
vote.
happening. Exactly.
They are still happening, and they're still meaningful. If we pass Proposition 50, their shenanigans, gerrymandering in Texas and in other states, we undo some significant part of that attack on our democracy. We got to win Proposition 50 in Texas. Or in California. We should win the Virginia elections. We should win the New Jersey elections. We should win the Pennsylvania elections. That's not going to suddenly save democracy on its own, but it's going to demonstrate that we still do have these rights. We're exercising them, and we're not standing with the regime. And then beyond that, the next opportunity, I really do believe, is primary season, because we
Yeah.
can be as frustrated as we want, and I've been plenty frustrated with members of the Democratic coalition, but we get the party we demand. And if we do not demand better, we can accept more of the leadership that we've gotten up into this point. So I would highly recommend folks, do not give to the big national committees. We got to win the midterm elections, but your focus right
Yeah.
now over the
State by
following six
state,
to nine
community
months,
by community, district by district.
exactly. Adopt a district, adopt an open district or a challenger in some part of the country and say, that's my gal, that's my guy. They represent the party I want to see, and get behind them. You don't have to do everything, but find the candidate or two here. Like, that's who I want representing the party at the national stage.
Yeah, look, a part of what I love about this whole conversation is that it hopefully reminds people, again, grassroots is the way forward here. I mean, I think there's a tendency to look to who's the next presidential candidate, who's
Yes.
that next savior, who's that person who's going to come along and save us. And I think if we've learned anything in this last period is that there is no one person who's going to do this. It is collective power that's going to make a difference. And, the important movements that have shifted the country, surely, yeah, we can go back to the civil rights era. We can go back to the progressive era. We can go back to the Reconstruction era. I mean, all those things, there are periods in American history where it's clear it's the movement of people that makes the difference, not one person who's doing it for us. So I applaud this effort speaking broadly. And I want to emphasize particularly, I think it's so interesting that the important people, I think in some ways, maybe the most important voices have been Democratic governors, people who are at the
Yes.
state level,
Yes.
people who have if you will, the power of their state behind them,
Yep.
but who are not looking to sort of get along with the national government. They're looking to serve the interests of their state and their people. And I think that's very telling about the democratic experiment and where those experiments need to happen. And right now, I think we are seeing at the state and local levels most meaningfully.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And there are some that are really distinguishing themselves. I think JD Pritzker has been out there from the get-go.
Yeah,
He did not wait for the polls. He did not do the message testing out the gate after Trump got elected. He was
yeah.
there saying, I'm protecting the residents of Illinois. I'm going to fight this with everything I got. And you got to give the guy some credit for that.
And he called
I'm
it a
not
five-alarm fire, and he said, "Look, there's history that should tell us that this can be repeated and it can happen here."
but I also want to praise Gavin Newsom, not because I'm a Gavin Newsom fan. I've never been much of a Gavin Newsom fan, and I think he operated pretty poorly in the few
Yeah,
months after the election. But damn it, he got the message. He saw where the wind was blowing, and he has changed his behavior. And I
yeah.
think we need to welcome leaders who were not with us earlier, but who want to join the opposition. We should be celebrating them as soon as they come in. You are going to push this redistricting proposition in California? Awesome, Gavin. I'm behind you 100%. I have no permanent beef with any member of the Democratic Party. I have temporary allies and temporary
Yeah.
opponents. I hope they all become allies in the fight against this regime. And I'm willing to work with anybody in opposition to attacks on our constitutional rights. And the way we do that is by being welcoming when people shift their tactics like this. And the way we do it is by demanding better when we have the chance to choose who those leaders are in a primary coming up.
I mean, well, goodness knows, Marjorie Taylor Greene is all of a sudden like they're fighting against Trump when it comes to the release of the Epstein files. Well, I'm not exactly a Marjorie Taylor Greene fan, but suddenly, like, oh, I mean, suddenly she's actually advocating for something that makes sense. So I think what we've surely learned in the last years, the typical alliances, they got us to where we were. Now we have to look at a whole set of new alliances that may be the way forward. And that particularly means not thinking it's, Democrat, Republican narrowly,
Yeah.
or it's liberal and conservative, that the traditional categories no longer are adequate to actually articulate what really is, those who are committed to American democracy, and the fascists or the authoritarians or those who reject it for all the reasons that they do. So listen, I want to just take the last moments for a couple of things. So October 18th, that's 17, 18 days from now. Is the shutdown still going on by then?
Well,
And
and
how do you look at the shutdown, whether it is or isn't? How do you look at it affecting the protest on the 18th?
directly, I think they're directly related. It's no accident that we set this for October because we knew this shutdown deadline was happening. The argument I am making to Democratic and Republican offices is on October 18th, we're going to have the largest peaceful protest in modern American history. For you Republicans, you can either stick to your guns and say, no, I'm raising insurance costs, I'm closing rural hospitals, I'm giving Trump a blank check, in which case those protesters are going to be in your communities calling you out for it. For you Democrats, you can continue to push, and then the cavalry's coming in. We're going to be supporting you. We're going to be cheering you on. We're going to have quotes from your speeches on signs in the streets. Or if you capitulate, if you give in, that's accountability moment. This is us shifting into, we don't have the leaders we need. We need to replace them. And so I think it can work both ways.
Yeah.
It is directly related to how this shutdown plays out. I hope the position we're in is we will have just come off of a big win and we get to say, this is what happens when you build a unified opposition party. We win for the American people and we show that this would-be authoritarian is not all powerful. That's my goal. But if we have to, we're going to have millions of people in the street who are pissed off at the current state of politics and are looking for something new. And I'm willing to go that path as well.
So if October 18th, let's call it 10 million, let's call it 12 million, shall we? Shall we?
Right.
What happens on the 19th and the 20th and 21st? I mean, is there a version of, kind of a, I don't know what you want to call it, a kind of guerrilla protests that can happen at a mass scale, not just, 2 or 3 months after that, but in a sustained way? Do you see the ability to put together that kind of an ongoing structure? Because look, the question really is, what's the goal here? Is it the removal of Trump? I mean, what's the ask? What's the outcome that we're really after?
We have to do two things. We have to have rapid response, opportunistic fights when they come up. I don't know when the next Disney presents itself. I'm confident it will present itself, and we need to be ready to pounce. There was a difference between the public's reaction to Stephen Colbert and the public's reaction to Jimmy Kimmel. The
Yeah.
public's reaction to Jimmy Kimmel wound up getting Jimmy Kimmel back in the air. The somewhat lackluster response to CBS to Colbert wound up not getting him. He's still fired. He is still not going to be coming back. We need to be able to pounce on these opportunities when they come. And then in addition to that, there are some predictable fights that we need to prepare for and we need to be building long-term campaigns for. So I've said it already, the elections in November and the primary elections, we obviously have midterm elections coming up next year, but it's not just about turning out to vote. I don't think you or I or anybody paying close attention believes that Trump is just going to accept a loss. I think we're
Right.
building a blue wave. I
Yeah.
don't think the Republicans are going to accept a blue wave. We need to be prepared to build up a massive, peaceful force when they pull shenanigans, when
Yeah.
they engage in
And they will.
election sabotage or subterfuge. But when you asked about what about a national strike, what about mass economic power, what about when does that come? In my mind, if we are going to have that, it's going to be coming in response to some cataclysmic event. In other countries where that happens, it's usually around subversion of democracy, around elections. That's the inflection point. But we can't do that without building the movement over time. So in my mind, it is good that we had masses of people at town halls in February and March. It is great that we set records with Hands Off with 3 million people in April. It is awesome that then that doubled in size for No Kings 1. I'm hopeful that it will grow in size for No Kings 2. It will need to grow bigger as we head into 26 so that come election time at the end of the year, we have the ability to pull off what you're describing.
Yeah, and I do agree that it needs to be not a close election in 2026. It needs to be
Right.
overwhelming. I mean, I was one of those people who said that 2024. I mean, that Kamala Harris didn't just need to win; she needed to win in a significant way because
Yep.
an overwhelming victory would be, a powerful enough statement that would convince some of the MAGA crowd to recognize that their long term future is a future of loss and failure. And at this point, that makes, I think, 2026 that much more critical. And please, I hope there's nobody here who thinks, oh, it's over. There's not going to be an election in 2026. I've heard that way too many times already. And again, that's part of, in essence, obeying in advance. It's giving them the power that they don't have. And so, that's why the work that you're doing, the work that other organizations are doing, the work of elections lawyers and others who are trying to make sure that there's at least a version of free and fair elections, that these things actually happen to make sure that there's a outcome in 2026 and in the coming months that actually represents the will of the people. So, listen, I want to thank you for your time, Ezra. Again, I'm really grateful to talk to you, especially as we're looking toward this big protest on the 18th. Where will you be? Will you be in Washington or
Yeah, I'll be in DC. And I would encourage folks, if you go to nokings.org and search for an event, and there's not one within 30 minutes or an hour of where you live, pull some friends together, get your own No Kings event on the website. This needs to be everywhere. We want it in rural areas, suburban areas, city centers. Like I said, there are more than 2,200 events already there, so there's probably one near you. If there isn't, put it together. If there is, advertise it to your community. People who have never protested before, it's going to be a good time. People are going to have funny signs. People are going to bring their dogs and their kids. There's going to be dancing. There's going to be music. And there's going to be this boisterous, empowering sense of we're doing this together. We are standing up for our democracy together. But we need your help to get the word out. This is not going to come from some big national force. Yes, there's a big coalition doing it, but this is grassroots. So don't just show up. That's my request to people watching this. Don't just show up. Post on your social media. Tell your friends, your kids, your colleagues, your parents
speak out?
that you're showing up.
This is the critical thing. It's the speaking out. It's the participation. And I think that for those who are reluctant to participate in protest, this is muscle building, right?
Yes, that's right.
Do it this time. You know what? You're gonna find that there's energy, there's strength in it, and it'll make you stronger for the next time because there's a lot of work ahead. So, everyone here, thank you so much for joining us. Ezra, stay healthy, stay strong. we this is a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Indeed.
And I appreciate that you help people to realize, capitulation in the face of a bully is always the wrong way to go. And that means, honestly, it means standing up. I try to do that with America. I mean, I am never going to capitulate to this regime, whatever it takes. This is the necessity. Either you care about the survival of democracy and the American Republic or you don't. For me, it's that simple.
Well, Stephen, courage is contagious. Thanks for spreading it.
Thank you. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, and look forward to the next time.